No single number or group of them can be anything other than exactly what they are, which is principle manifest, is that particular aspect of principle. There is no life, truth, intelligence, nor substance in the numeral all by itself. The principle is all the life, truth, intelligence, and substance there is. The numerals are what they are already, without having to do anything to get that way, without having to worry about sustenance and supply, no worry of food or money to stay that way. There's no separation at all between principle and numbers. It is all principle, being itself. Well, so what? How does this illustration relate practically to this daily experience? What good does all this business do me, you ask? Well, now listen. All the people, places, and things that one sees, including the body called me, Bill, or Ann, or Mavis, or Elaine, are all like numbers, being what they are actually, because a principle of reality exists. Call it a principle of existence, being, consciousness, God, or whatever you like. The name isn't important, but the fact of being, of life, is. Now, it's not possible to deny that being is. The mere fact that one is aware of existing is obvious proof that something exists. So if something, if anything exists, then there is existence. There is being. There is the fact of being. And this seems to be the first fact for all of us. There is an awareness right here, listening, hearing these words. And since there is something being, there is reality concerning what is being. Now, it is this reality, this principle of being, which is called God. Reality is God. God is what is. God is the principle of all being. Now, and note the following carefully, because it's really the heart of this presentation. Awareness, right now, is being aware of these words. Hence, awareness is being. Now, who can deny that? Just as God is the principle of all being, even so God is the principle of this very awareness, aware of these words, right here, right now, this very awareness called Bill, Rachel, Lane, John, George. Consider awareness at this very instant. Just consider awareness now. The same awareness that listens to these words may also look about and see a table or a chair, a bouquet there, or a little boy. It might look across the way and see a tree, a mountain, a star, or a galaxy. Indeed, this awareness right here, right now, just might look up and see the universe. Now I ask you, have you ever been separate from this awareness? No, indeed. Everything you see, have ever seen, or ever will see, comes as this very awareness that sees what it sees this instant, that sees and hears and feels these words. Now, is this not so? Why? This awareness is life itself. When one says, I am alive, doesn't he mean, really, I am aware? When this was written, the word awareness was seldom used. Here now, 30 years later, almost 40 years later, the term awareness has become a major word in the vocabulary of the world. Now, listener, do you see that you live forever alone with and as this awareness? Have you ever been outside this awareness? No. Every sight you have ever seen, every sound you've ever heard, every touch, every fragrance, every thought has always come to you as this awareness that is aware right here, right now. You've never seen a sight but your own sight, which awareness indicates at the moment is a book or a boy or a little blue flower. You've never heard a sound but your very own awareness. And now listen carefully. You alone have decided for yourself whether you liked it or didn't like it, whether what you saw was good or evil. Indeed, you have never judged a thing outside awareness at all. You have been sitting in judgment of this total, all-inclusive, alone and only awareness, which is our life itself. No, we've never been outside awareness at all. The book, the bouquet, the tree, the soaring swallow are within this awareness, not outside it. Just as the principle of arithmetic is the power, the importance, and the substance of all the numbers, exactly so, this very awareness is the common denominator, the substance of all it perceives. The day will soon come when this fact of being smites all mankind with its beauty and truth. Oh my goodness, in the past 30 years, how much of mankind has awakened to this truth. The perception of this single, simple truth leaves one never again at the mercy of external things. The objects of perception are seen clearly and understood to live and move and have their being, not as a power or importance of themselves, not as something out there, but as principle, reality, life, being, God itself. Manifest is what we name it, is what we call it. This recognition gives the glory to God where it rightfully belongs. The oneness and allness of God is self-evidently the fact of this awareness, which has forever been alone and all to everyone. Yes, the key is the singleness and the all-inclusiveness of this very awareness. This awareness of existence that is right here, right now, is divine. It is God's awareness, and it's not mine. A man fraught with fear and consternation came to me with a terrible tale of tribulation. He wanted someone to do something about all his troubles. And after a few moments of simple, light-hearted conversation relative to the reality that is rather than the sorrow that seems, the man said, I see. I understand. God is all that is here. God is this very awareness. I am. He left and fearlessly set about doing all that was necessary to appear happy and prosperous. Many months later, he told me that nothing had upset his equanimity since the day of that conversation. Well, sweet listener, I will not promise that nothing will ever upset you again, but you've made a tremendous step when you come home to awareness and understand that this awareness that is life is God's functioning, happening. It is the divine mind's own self-awareness in action. We stop identifying as a body that is aware to identify as the awareness that belongs to God. The awareness which is God's viewing of God's own perfect qualities and attributes and the good that's in them. The tangible universe is the total of the objects of perception, and they're all perceived within this awareness. One of these objects is this body called me and mine. Well, just who is this me? This body is no more than any other object of perception within infinite awareness. Yet the claim is that this particular body called me contains awareness within it. Now, is this not what mankind believes? I am aware, he says. I have a mind of my own that is aware. This is my awareness, and I want it to show me abundant dollars, happiness, health, wealth, or something. This me who contains awareness is an impossible imposter and a liar from the beginning. It is no more possible to imprison the divine awareness of infinite being and confine it within an object of its perception than it is possible to confine the alphabet to the letter A or jam the infinity of arithmetic into one number. All there is to mankind, to the old man who needs to be put off, is the belief that this awareness right here and now, reading these words, listening to these words, is confined within a body, that it is beholden to a body, that it is the servant of a body, that it is the function of a body's brain and a personal mind. Well, to accept such a state of affairs as fact is the cause of mankind's troubles. It's like attempting to look at infinity through a knothole, like looking at the infinity of arithmetic through a single number, call me. To accept such a state of affairs as fact would seemingly reverse reality. It makes a multiplicity of singleness and brings space and time into being with beginning and end, birth, death, and duality ad infinitum. Suppose the infinity of arithmetic could be confined within one number, say the number 7. Suddenly, number 7 says, I am aware, I am alive, I have a mind of my own, I am here, located in a place that follows number 6, and it precedes number 8. Rank, sequence, beginning and end are established. I look about me, outside and around me, to see an infinite universe. To all appearances, since I consider myself a number, I am one of countless numbers. And some of those numbers are greater than I am, and some are less than I am. Limited in space, I am finite and measurable. All I see is likewise measurable, limited and finite with a beginning and an end. Yet, when I look around, I see magnificent order in my universe. And I call that magnificent order, I call it God or nature. God certainly seems out there and far away from me down here. Since I am just this one number limited in time and space, I am separate and apart from all I see. I am here and things are there, a measurable distance away. And I'm always stuck to here. I'm always stuck to now. I need this or that to help me sustain my place in existence, or to go here and there. I am incomplete. I am more or less than that. Oh, this is good and that is bad. I'm really quite miserable and I wish God would do something about it. Well now, isn't this ridiculous? The principle of arithmetic cannot be stuffed into a number. The number is in the principle. The number has no mind of its own, and only the principle is being anything at all. There is no beginning or end to any of the numerals, because a beginningless and endless principle is continually being all it is, including an infinity of perfect numbers. There isn't just one number 7. There are as many number 7s as is necessary. Just as the confined or limited view of arithmetic is a distortion, exactly so the confined and limited view of reality is a distortion. Just as it is impossible to put the principle of arithmetic into a single number or into all of them together, it is not actually possible to confine this alone awareness, this awareness right here, to a single finite body. The view of the universe via a possessed, imprisoned awareness is called the human experience, and it's fraught with endless perplexities. To end the perplexities, one stops believing himself a separate ego who's aware. One identifies as awareness itself. This one begins to discover himself unconfined, uncontaminated, unfettered, and free. This one begins to discover that the only awareness going on is God's awareness of being all God is. And all God is good. As time goes, some years ago, I talked to a man who said he was terribly depressed about his personal affairs. He had tried everything he knew to help himself, including psychoanalysis and drugs. Despite everything, he had fallen such a victim to despair that he could go on no longer. He told me there was nothing left but to give God a chance. He said, it's my last resort. Well, he was visibly shocked when told that God could not correct a problem, because so far as God was concerned, there was no problem to correct. He was even more shaken when informed that the only place the problem in its depression existed was in his own belief that God was some sort of a servant intended to do his personal bidding. Now, if you want to get rid of your problem, he was told, then get rid of the belief that you are a personality who could have a problem. Now, this struck him exactly as it always strikes the pompous old man with a problem, as sheer idiocy, as absolute insanity, as nothing but unadulterated escapism. But his heart began to tell him otherwise. Deep within, the still small voice whispered, "It's so, it's so, it's true. I tell you that there is a child within us, the original child of us, that knows the truth and hears it and confirms it. And we still are that very child." So the man set about as his heart told him, and he determined to forget the problem as best he could and ascertain for himself just what reality really is. Well, reality quickly excluded his despondency and his problem. It always does. Another fact that lies at the root of the world's major religions, as they were originally conceived, is the allness of God. Indeed, the allness, hence oneness of God, was the heart and soul of original Christianity before mankind began to interpret it for himself, before the separate mind rearranged things, continue a place for itself. The fact is that God, principle, is all that is. God is the only reality. God is the only power and presence. Beside God, there is nothing else at all. God is total and alone. God is one. There is not God and me. There is not God and the world, universe, heaven, hell, devil, or anything else. There is God alone. Now, mankind is willing to agree that God's sphere of influence includes the universe entire. He will even concede intellectually that God is everywhere, but he is not so ready to admit that God, fact, reality, principle, is all. of all. That God is the being of existence itself. That God, or that that divine principle itself is being all there is to this universe. A businessman of my close acquaintance was informed by a representative of the government that he had been violating a federal law for quite some time. The payments and penalties due the government amounted to several $1,000s, enough to bring about the dissolution of his business and the loss of his home as well. In the face of what certainly seemed a problem of major proportions, the businessman steadfastly stood his ground. This is what he said. He said, "This single awareness is self-evidently all I am." He said, "This awareness is all to me." God is being all there is to this awareness. All that can be seen is God's own perception of God. Reality perceives reality. It seems a little silly to think perfection can disturb perfection. The government representative is within this awareness I am, just as everything else that is seen. The government and its representatives are within awareness, like the letters are in the alphabet. Now, the letters can do nothing to destroy the tranquility of the alphabet. So how can this man do anything to harm this awareness I am? Well, he stood his ground in the face of the hydra-headed monster that government always appears at, to find out shortly that the amount of money involved was only half as much. And then he heard a fourth as much. And then, lo, finally he heard that the government had made a mistake and that there had been no violation at all. Well, there is actually no imperfection on this earth. There is actually no problem to be solved. There is actually nothing to be overcome or healed. There is actually no separate little ego with a mind of its own to be awakened, to be eliminated, or to be put off. Oh, but my goodness, the one who understands that is the one who begins to put it off. It cannot be denied that there sure seems to be much to contend with and to correct in the world. But to whom does it seem this way? Always to the one who thinks he is something of himself, to the one who thinks that he has a mind of his own and that awareness belongs to himself, to his personal mind, to the one who would make a servant of awareness and have it report just what he wants to see and hear and feel. Then that imprisoner of awareness, called mortal man, is either happy or unhappy depending on how nearly his awareness shows him what he wants to see. All the while awareness just goes right on being aware. All the while awareness goes right on just being what it is. Consciousness being perfectly aware of existence. All the while awareness constantly beholds the perfection of existence and nothing else. The one in such great misery is that one to whom awareness reports and who judges the reports of awareness that come to him. The one who is elated or despondent, well supplied or in poverty, is the one who, judging the reports of his senses, either likes them or dislikes them. The one with the problem is always the one who considers himself a personality with a mind of his own that is aware. That is, who consciously or unconsciously believes himself to be the grand custodian and possessor of life, of awareness. Well, I have news. Awareness cannot be possessed. Awareness does not belong to a single man or a woman. Awareness is not the servant of anybody or anything. Awareness belongs to the divine mind, infinite consciousness, reality, God, just as yellow belongs to gold, just as the numerals belong to arithmetic. You are this very awareness itself. We are not a mortal being who contains awareness. We are the divine awareness itself, in the process of awaring, of being aware. Well, now, can you imagine what this means? No. Sit easy for a minute and mull this over. Awareness itself passes no judgment on the things seen or the situations experienced. Awareness is just being aware. Awareness sees the mountains, the stars, the trees. It is Bill or Mary or John who professes to possess awareness who makes the judgment about how good it is or how bad it is. It's always Bill, Mary, or John who dislikes or likes what awareness reports. And it's always Bill and Mary and John who suffer the agony of hell when things do not please them. And of course, nothing pleases that possessor of life for very long. Our salvation is simple and easy. It's to come out and be separate from the me sense, from the possessor, or whatever you call yourself. It's to cease identifying as the body that's aware, as the enslaver of God, as a possessor of infinite awareness. It's to start right now and identify correctly as awareness itself. There is no yourself, myself, or any other self but God. God is being this life. This is who and what we are. We are not miserable, suffering mortals, so we can just stop acting like we are. God, perfection itself, is being you. I have known those who have seen and understood this light instantaneously. Their problems, consternations, and fears were shed as quickly and easily as one takes off his coat. These were the ones who were humbly ready, willing, and eager to let God be all that God really is, leaving no place for an ego that puffs itself up and claims to have an awareness of its own. Now, likewise, I've known those who were reluctant to give up the old man, the imprisoner of awareness. That's most of us, of course. They are the ones who attempt to use principle that they might heal this or correct that or see more good things. All the while, they still had awareness reporting to the mortal mess they identified themselves as. Well, such as these, like Jacob of old, fight an awful battle with themselves. The personal sense of self called Bill and Mary or John is the old man, who must be put off, but who doesn't want to be put off. He fights furiously and leaves no stone unturned to prove he is a reality. He fights until he is honestly lost sight of in the allness of God, there to be seen as an impossibility. Thus ends the dream as the old man, and the place thereof shall know him no more. No untoward or miserable situation can present itself to God. Misery appears to the one who attempts to make a slave of God's own awareness of being. And such a slave master is not possible. We can therefore stop attempting to play a dream role and end the karmic suffering that seems the result of such foolishness. Well, how quickly? Right now. Awareness itself is what we are, and it's all we are. It includes all we've ever been aware of, from the countless grains of sand to the galaxies, from the most abstruse philosophical speculation to the simple sparrow on the sidewalk. This awareness, life, cannot be possessed by a body it includes. You do not attempt to jam the whole of arithmetic into one of its numbers nor cram the alphabet into one of its letters, because it isn't possible. Well, neither is it possible to stuff the totality of life into a particular body the old man is identified as. Awareness goes right on being aware of the happiness and resplendent joy of the schoolboy who finds a mistake on his school paper knows the mistake is not in the principle. He doesn't blame arithmetic for the mistake, The error exists outside the principle. Yet the principle, when understood as it is, serves to correct the misworked problem. It is because principle exists as an immutably perfect fact that one is able to enjoy the facts it embodies. Well, exactly so. Reality is what reality is. Absolute truth. It is perfect. It is harmonious fact, in which there is nothing that worketh or maketh a lie. The schoolboy doesn't blame arithmetic for the errors on his paper, nor does the pianist blame Beethoven if she errs at the piano. So why blame God, the perfect principle of being, for the untoward events of life? Well, now let's consider eternity in light of arithmetic. When did the principle of arithmetic begin? Well, we ponder this a moment and we find clearly that it had no beginning at all. It has always existed as itself. It is as eternal as existence. And when will the principle of arithmetic end? What can happen to alter or destroy it? Does it get sick? Can it be maimed or crippled? Can it be killed in a war? Can an atom bomb destroy it? If this entire planet were blown to dust by hydrogen weapons, would the principle of arithmetic be affected at all? No. It would still exist untouched and perfect as ever. 2 plus 2 would still be 4. Why, this principle wouldn't even be bent, not even in the least. In exactly this way, the principle of all existence, which is called God, is eternal. That is, without beginning and without end, indestructible and continuous in being, no matter what the tortured meanderings of human activity. And since the principle continues, so continues all that the principle is. As long as there is a principle of arithmetic, addition, subtraction, and everything else that arithmetic is continues. Well, God, the divine principle, reality, continues also. Hence, all that God is continues. God, the substance and essence of all that is, remains perfect, unabated, and untouched, everywhere present, nowhere absent. Now, arithmetic is a perfect, single completeness. It's shown forth, made tangible or apparent by the various signs and symbols of arithmetic. Well, let's consider numbers for a minute. Numbers exist because the principle of arithmetic exists. If there were no principle, there would be no numbers. And because the principle is infinite, there is an infinity of numbers. We might say that numbers live and move and have their being in the principle of arithmetic because the principle is. The numbers are as eternal and as immaterial, as indestructible and perfect as the principle. They exist, they are, because principle is, and for no other reason. So long as there is a principle, there will be the perfect signs and symbols that manifest it. Even though there is an infinity of numbers, each one of them is separate and distinct from the others. 3 is 3 and not 4. 4 is 4, distinctly individual and separate from 5. Yet the numbers in and of themselves are nothing. The value lies in the principle. The importance is principle. The primordial substance is principle. And the numbers are principle, manifest as numbers. Or in or of themselves, numbers are just numbers, being principles, self-evident. Now, no number can exist outside the perfect principle. No number has a mind or a will of its own to do what it chooses.